I am an American soldier.
I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people and live the Army values.
I will always place the mission first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined.
I am disciplined.
Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I am an expert and I am a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am Army Strong.
There's strong, and there's Army Strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at rahardin.com. That's the World Wide Web at rahardin.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. 1 free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
All right, how y'all doing out there tonight? Yes, I miss you when we're not talking. No, that's not a joke. How could you say that was a joke? Come on. you guys probably don't realize this. Well, those of you that listen regularly might. That's show prep. That's about an hour and a half to 2 hours out of my day. Now, I will admit I'm usually also eating dinner, but I spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours out of every day prepping so I can come on the air and talk to you guys and show you how these pieces overseas are fitting together. Because trust me, the pieces are changing, the players are changing, and in one country's case, the money is changing. Not a good sign either, folks. Not in the least. But we will get to all that. Now, unless you live under a rock. Yes, unless you live under a rock, you know that America lost a great hero today. Give me just a moment to find my show prep, which is gone into hiding. There we go. Okay. Well, we lost John Glenn today. And that was no small things, folks. John Glenn, let's see. First man to orbit the Earth, first American to orbit the Earth. Oldest man in space. And many, many other things. He was a father. He was so many things. He was a father, he was a senator, he was a colonel. And there's just a lot of things he was. I'm just trying to find my audio clips because evidently they didn't save where I thought they did. So it's going to take me just a minute to whack them down. I think this is one of them. Let's check.
President Tsai will stop over in New York.
No, that's a different audio clip. That we will be discussing later. So, I have never misplaced an audio clip like that before.
Days, Americans have been motivated by curiosity.
There we go. There's one of them. And we are going to take a listen. These are John Glenn's own words when he received a congressional medal. I'm going to let John Glenn talk to you himself.
From our founding days, Americans have been motivated by curiosity about the new and the unknown, whether it was geographical exploration that pushed back the frontiers of a continent or micro-exploration in our laboratories. That curiosity and research, coupled with an education system that let all our citizens benefit and contribute, were the twin engines of progress that catapulted America into world preeminence. But there were other frontiers never before believed to be approachable. And for many, many thousands of years, people had looked up and wondered, they'd been curious about what was up there. Now, we must consider ourselves among the most fortunate of all generations, for we have lived at a time when the dream became a reality, when we finally could travel above the atmosphere around the Earth, where we could establish laboratories in space and do research, and for the very first time in history, leave human footprints on some place other than Earth, as Neil and Buzz and Mike made their epic journey. The message they left on the lunar surface could be said of all our manned space travels. We came in peace for all mankind. These dreams were brought to life by one of the most dedicated and capable teams ever put together. Workers, technicians, engineers, scientists. Honored as we are today, we certainly share this recognition with that great team. Almost 50 years ago, following the orbital flight of Friendship 7, I was very privileged to address a joint session of Congress. And I closed my remarks then with words I will repeat today. As our knowledge of the universe in which we live increases, may God grant us the wisdom and guidance to use it wisely. Thank you.
John Glenn, a true American patriot and hero. And his loss will certainly be felt for months, if not generations to come. All right. I have no clue why I can't find a single audio clip today. It is not my day for audio clips, folks. I think I was working on so much stuff that they saved somewhere else, if you really want to know this truth. So I'm trying to find the originals for you. Because I've got those still pulled up, because, as usual, I was running late. Alright, if this is John Glenn, I'm going to close it down.
Ceremony unveiling the portrait of
No, this is a current U.S. Senator discussing John Glenn. We'll take a very brief listen to this one, because this one goes on for longer than I'd care to discuss John Glenn, as much as I love him.
As well. Mr. President, today our country lost an American hero, Colonel John Glenn, Senator John Glenn. I will be back at a later date to deliver a more formal tribute with my colleague, Senator Portman, but I want to share some initial thoughts as I, along with my wife Connie, and so many Ohioans mourn for John Glenn, and join so many people around the country that loved him and cared for him and respected him. It's been one of the great blessings of my life to get to know John Glenn, and for Connie and me to count him and Annie as mentors and friends. We remember just a few short years ago, on the 50th anniversary of his flight into space, the night before, we had dinner with John and Annie. Connie and I and John and Annie and his children, David and Lynn, and his daughter-in-law, David's wife, and how interesting and joyous it was to just hear him recount his experiences and so much of what he's done.
He does go on for several more minutes. The original audio, if you are interested, can be found on cspan.org. Yes, this happened today on the Senate floor. At least I found the audio clip. I'm kind of happy that I found that much, given everything I've got on my desktop at the moment. So, we are going to move right along. Evidently, the president of Taiwan... Oh, Taiwan's not out of the news yet. And I've got two articles here. One of them, I'm going to warn you, Press TV, Iranian News. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's phone conversation with the Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen was exaggerated in the media to take away attention from President Barack Obama's belligerence against Beijing, according to an analyst in Chicago. The phone conversation angered the Chinese government, which views Taiwan as a breakaway province awaiting reunification. The conversation was the first by a U.S. president or a president-elect since Washington cut official ties with Taiwan in 1979 and committed to the One China principle, which recognizes Taiwan as part of China. According to White House spokesman Josh Earnest, senior National Security Council officials have spoken twice with Chinese officials since the phone call, reassuring them about Washington's commitment to our long-standing China policy. Following the call, reports emerged that Tsai was going to make a short stop in New York City on her way to South American countries of Guatemala and El Salvador early next month. China complained about this. America complained about this. The U.S. media complained about this. But they didn't say very much that America has sold billions of dollars of weapons to Taiwan. When America got together with Dalai Lama, who's an enemy of China, supporting Dalai Lama on Tibetan issues, which China considers an affront to their sovereignty, there were no complaints in the U.S. media. In December of last year, Obama authorized a $1.8 billion arms sale to Taiwan, a move that was strongly condemned by China. The U.S. has said in the past it would defend Taiwan in case of possible military invasion by China. The call between Tsai and Trump was most likely arranged by lobbyists, and we actually know, in fact, that it was. The call was really, folks, the media is blowing the call out of the water. All right? I really think that they are making not just mountains out of molehills. They're making all kinds of noise out of molehills. Now, there was a analyst from Chicago, I'm looking for the name, Stephen Lenman, called into Press TV earlier in the week. I'm not even sure how to place it called where I ran, but that tells you a little bit of insight about this guy.
President Tsai will stop over in New York sometime in January on the way to Central America to visit several countries there. Why she's stopping in New York, I don't know.
That's right. I don't know why she's stopping in New York. Her plane could just as easily land in Canada. Her plane could just as easily land in any other number of locations. So I wanted to check that out. So I found another news article. Now I don't have the source here, but it was an American source. China on Wednesday accused Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen of seeking to use a planned transit stop in the U.S. to score diplomatic points amid Chinese rancor over the unprecedented phone call between Tsai and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. Asked at a briefing whether China had asked the U.S. to cancel the stop plan for next month, Foreign Ministry spokesman Liu Kang reiterated China's claim to sovereignty over Taiwan, including and accused Tsai of political machinations. Taiwan's administration and leader always perform some petty moves like a transit diplomacy whose utter political intentions are clear for all to see. Tsai plans to stop in the U.S. on her way to visit Nicaragua, Guatemala, and El Salvador, which are among the island's handful of diplomatic allies. China, which claims Taiwan is a breakaway province, objects to any nation having formal contact with its government. The island has diplomatic relations with just 22 countries, 12 of which are in Central America and the Caribbean. Phone conversation last Friday between Tsai and Trump broke a more than 4-decade-old precedent barring such direct communication and set off the usual, and I'm inserting the word usual here, Washington firestorm over Trump's apparent indifference to diplomatic protocol. Since the U.S. switched relations from Taipei to Beijing in 1979, the sides have only had unofficial diplomatic dealings. Although the U.S. remains a key ally of Taiwan and by law must ensure the island can maintain a credible defense, China, which split with Taiwan during the Civil War in 1949, continues to threaten to use force to reunify it if deemed necessary. Beijing cut off contacts with Tsai's government earlier this year over a refusal to endorse the concept that China and Taiwan remain part of a single Chinese nation, despite their present state of division. That brought a shuddering halt to the trend in recent years of warming ties between the former arch-rivals. In Taipei, presidential spokesman Alex Huang said Wednesday that Taiwan considered it of equal importance to maintain good relations with both the U.S. and China, but it also took a swipe at China's response. Such overreaction is unnecessary and is also not conducive to the normal development of Taiwan-China relations. While some Chinese scholars have welcomed Trump's win over Hillary Clinton, whom they saw as more hawkish toward China, events of the past few days, including Trump's sharp criticism of China on Twitter, appear to be changing that view. So, okay, first of all, China, if you didn't get the hint when Trump brought you up every 40 seconds about renegotiating trade deals, I can't help you. Now, the phone call itself, they spoke for approximately 10 minutes. You can't get into a whole lot of diplomatic negotiations in 10 minutes. Yes, I can cram a lot of information into 10 minutes. But diplomatic negotiation takes weeks, months, years, hours. It's not concluded in 10 minutes, folks. It was probably a very benign call. Alright, we have about 7 minutes left. I have a bunch of North Korea and Iran stories today. But let's see what else I have. We have an Egypt story. We'll take care of that. Osama Morsi, son of ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi, has been arrested by Egypt. Police arrested Osama Morsi at his home in the city of Zagazig. His lawyer, Abdel Monem Abdel Maqsood, said according to the media. Osama has been charged in a mass trial underway with the bloody dispersal of 2 protest camps in August 2013 in which police killed hundreds of demonstrators. About 10 policemen were also killed during the protest by protesters during the dispersal. It was the bloodiest day in a relentless crackdown on Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood movement after the army, spurred by mass protests, ousted the first democratically elected president in July 2013. Osama Morsi, who is a lawyer himself, is due to appear on Saturday, the next session of the mass trial, which began in late 2015. Yes, these trials in Egypt can take years. Some of the charges can lead to the death sentence. Egyptian courts have sentenced hundreds of Brotherhood members to death, including Morsi himself. The Egyptian government has been cracking down on opposition since Morsi was ousted in a military coup led by former army chief and current president Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Rights groups say the army's crackdown on the supporters of Morsi has led to the deaths of over 1,400 people and rights of over 22,000 others, including some 200 people who have been sentenced to death, has violated the rights of over 22,000 others, including some 200 who have been sentenced to death in mass trials. Now, just remember, folks, The justice system doesn't work the same in other countries as it does here in the U.S. In many countries, you are guilty until you are proven innocent. We'll start on South Korea after the commercial break. And that's more North Korea. And North Korea. Oh yeah, you didn't know North Korea was this busy, did you? Trust me, we've been doing so much on Mosul that I felt the need to bring a little more Asia to the story today. Well, hello, host Kitty. Are you going to meow into the microphone for me? I guess she did. All right, I've got one more quick story. Putin's embarrassment. Amateur hour Russian missile launch caught on camera. The footage shows a S-300 missile being fired into the sky, but it fails to launch successfully. Now, I watched the video. Basically, there was the initial push off the launcher, but the engines that power the rocket, once it's basically shoved off the launcher, never lit. As the rocket is fired, it becomes obvious the launch has gone wrong as it slowly stops rising and begins to hurtle back to Earth. When the missile begins its untimely descent, the filmmaker understandably attempts to take cover, and by the time they pan the camera back, the launcher has been destroyed. It's the latest blow to Russia's military prestige after the nation's sole aircraft carrier scrapped future strikes. According to a report from IHS Jane, a publishing company specialist in military topics, the Admiral Kuznetsov has transferred its jets from the ship to a Haiman air base in Syria. So far, 2 planes have been written off because of landing problems on the aircraft carrier in the past few weeks. Vladimir Putin's decision to send his only aircraft carrier to the Syrian port of Tartus was seen as a signal of Russia's intent to continue playing a strategic role in the Middle East. Now, okay, let's briefly run over our scorecards. Remember, current President Barack Obama said Assad must go. Russia has been propping up Assad. And Iran, China, North Korea, trust me, they're in there somewhere. And I will explain that one after break, but trust me, North Korea and Iran are buddy-buddy. I don't even need to think twice about that one. They are bosom buddies. They share military technology, they exchange people and citizens, and oh yeah. They're in each other's back pockets, which is what makes the story I have coming up after the commercial break that much scarier. So, on that note, folks, we gotta pay those bills, and I will see you on the other side.
You can lay down if you wanna. You can run away if you wanna. You can pretend that this is totally okay if you wanna. You can play dead if you wanna. Forget what they said if you wanna. Turn your back on the country needing you right now. But I don't wanna.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from the critique of the short story through to line edits on full-length novels. We also offer assistance on generating writers' bios for your websites. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call. But I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-757-2782. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-757-2782. That's 877-757-2782.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Alright, and we are back. Now, I'm going to briefly gloss over this story, and boy do I mean gloss. Cuban President Raul Castro participates in family burial ceremony. Alright, why am I even bringing this up? Well, I have one reason. Fidel Castro's wife also participated, and most of the Cuban people didn't even realize Fidel was married. So that's kind of a huge deal. It's not the kind of thing, I mean, I think everybody guessed he was married, but nobody really knew that he was married and had a very large family. So, parting words were given by Cuban historian Esteban Leal, who this property considered as the school where it all began, today where the spirits of the Castro Ruiz family lives, After the burial ceremony, Raul Castro toured some areas of the farm, a museum of local historic value because of the Castro family. Angela Castro, the eldest brother, died in February 2012, while his brother Lamon, labor hero of the Republic of Cuba, died in February 2016. So that's a little bit about the Castros. Now, let me see if I can get this timed right. I don't have it formatted properly, so we're just going to have to roll with the punches. Our usual inherent resolve update.
Well, good morning, all. We'll start with Syria and we'll move on to Iraq. In Syria, we're accelerating our airstrikes on ISIL fighters and resources in support of Syrian Defense Forces offensive in Raqqa. In the last month, we've conducted nearly 300 strikes, enabling the liberation of more than 270 square miles from ISIL. These strikes have destroyed about 90 fortifications and over 50 vehicles and continue to disrupt ISIL's supply routes, ISIL's ability to fund its operations from the illicit sales of oil. In Iraq, strikes against ISIL-affiliated oil infrastructure routinely and severely reduced their revenue stream that had provided millions of dollars in revenue. We're doing the same thing in Syria to create pressure on the enemy as operations to isolate Raqqa are ongoing. I draw your attention to the map of Syria depicting progress in the SDF operation to isolate Raqqa. Liberating territory in northern Syria has freed up thousands of civilians from ISIL, but many remain displaced. Many of those people are moving into Manbij, but unfortunately as they move in that direction and even as they find refuge in and around the city, they're being targeted by ISIL small arms and IED attacks. The SDF, with its Arab elements, has enabled the establishment of a governance structure representative of the local population. And they've begun providing services to the people of Manbij, including having opened more than 240 schools since its liberation. A similar model with local governance is in the works for Raqqa once it's liberated. As the SDF isolates Raqqa.
Okay, so we are working very hard to isolate Raqqa. Now, there were some interesting questions and answers. Now, I've got to admit the DoD was having technical issues today. Pardon me. Mr. Frank had to put in his usual appearance, folks.
We don't take lightly any decision to strike a target that would...
Okay, this is about the hospital bombing that some of you may have heard about. And I'm going to let the question and answer kind of speak for themselves.
The ISF requested the strike to facilitate the retrograde of their forces to a safer and defensible position. We don't take lightly any decision to strike a target that would normally be a protected facility. The commander has directed a review of the facts leading up to the decision to strike the hospital on December 7th. And the coalition at this time has no reason to believe that procedures were not followed properly or that unintended effects were achieved. We've not seen any indications at this point that civilians were harmed in the strike. Nevertheless, it's appropriate to assess the details to assure we can fully answer questions associated with a strike such as this and to assure our processes for such circumstances are as refined as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time I'll be delighted to take your questions.
And we'll start with Lita Baldor from the Associated Press.
Hey, JD, just a couple more questions or details, if you could.
By the way, JD is Colonel John Dorian, and he is most frequently the spokesman for Operation Inherent Resolve.
And Al-Salam, can you give us a better sense of whether or not the Iraqis have been pushed completely back out of there, and what the impact was on the Iraqi security forces? We're hearing that there were a lot of casualties, if you have any assessment on that. And when you're talking about looking into the hospital strike, has there been a decision to conduct an investigation into the strike, or is this just one of the early review processes that you're looking at to determine if an investigation is needed?
So I'll start with your second question first, Lita. At this point, it's just an assessment to just go over the facts, make sure that we have properly accounted for everything that was done and all the decisions that were made at this time. So it's not an investigation, it's just an assessment of what was done. For your second question, I'm going to have to leave it to the Iraqi security forces to provide details with regard to their casualties. It was a very difficult battle, but the Iraqi security forces had advanced into an area pretty deeply into Mosul at this complex. And what we did is conduct this strike in order to allow them to fall back to a more defensible position. Just to be clear, I've seen some misreporting on this. This was not a total fallback. This is a few hundred yards. So they're in the very near vicinity of that facility, and they've made significant progress into southeastern Mosul. This is a very helpful development because what it does is it forces Daesh to react to that advancing force. They did so in a very tough battle last night. But the Iraqi security forces have dug in and they're protecting the terrain that they have.
All right, I think that's enough of an Operation Inherent Resolve update. I've got a couple of numbers for you. Let me see if they're clearly outlined. Over 200 strikes in Syria, 270 square miles of territory taken from Daesh. That's a good number. 240 schools since Manbij's liberation. That's a great number. All right, so these numbers are important, folks, because as anybody can tell you, what is important always when you want to subvert the culture? Get to the children. The children will help you. And I'm going to draw an analogy here. Some of you are going to be uncomfortable with. What do you think Hitler Youth was all about? Why do you think Daesh set up their own schools? Why do you think, speaking of getting to the children, let's talk about this one. Brings up a story from Iran. Welcome to Jihadi Land. Iran opens a theme park where children get to dress up as soldiers and pretend to attack Israel and other Western enemies. The Games for Revolutionary Children has opened in Mashhad, Iran. Run by the Iranian government, it teaches children to fight against enemies, including Israel and the United States. Young children as young as 8 don military uniforms and fight battles. Visitors are encouraged to fire rubber bullets at an effigy of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Alright, there's 9 stages to this theme park. Youngsters are taught about the Mahdi, the Shiite Messiah. They are taken to the station of the rule of jurisprudence. And we're going to go into just a few of these. The children are taught about the Islamic Revolution and how the Shah's dictatorship was vanquished. They enter the first station of Holy Defense, where they simulate fighting the enemy and learn about combat methods, including firing plastic bullets. They shoot at effigies of the Israeli Prime Minister and the U.S. flag. The children go to the station of defense of the Shrine of Zanyib and learn about fighting in Syria against Daesh. Children have a contest throwing balls at effigies of Daesh and the Saudi royal family. They watch a video about the defense of the Shrine of Zanyib. The children receive a souvenir gift. And this one confused me. Children are blindfolded and asked to throw a ball at an Israeli flag in the form of a puzzle and knock it down. And then assemble a puzzle of an Israeli flag. Okay, I get the whole knock it down. The reassembly one was the one that kind of got me here. And they show visitors are taught that the most important elements in war are wisdom and intelligence. They're also taught about Iranian leaders, including Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who founded the Islamic Republic. Theme park boss Hamid Sagah said at the final station the children learn that the most important elements for attaining victory are wisdom and intelligence for fighting the enemy. And he says there's been great demand for the theme park. This is another generation being trained from a very early age not to get along with the West. And we made a deal with these people? Now, of course, you've heard me say that nuclear deal I don't think is worth the paper it's written on. Now, why I think Iran's economy is struggling. Iran is gearing to switch its national currency back to the Toman, a move that would end the reign of the rial after around 90 years and could also boost the value of the country's national currency against the US dollar. Switching the national currency from the rial to the Toman is a measure which is meant to facilitate transactions by public and acknowledge what the people generally accept in their current trend of trade and to match the economics of the society with realities. 1 Toman would be worth 10 rials. Switching to the Toman would mean that a zero would be removed from price figures. Okay, so if something was originally $10, it'll now be $1. I personally think they're trying to cover up some real inflation here. The Iranian currency was known as the Taman until late 1930s, when the name was changed to rial at a rate of 10 rials to a toman. Nevertheless, the Iranians continue to use the old terminology even after the change, and the rial only remained in the official language. Also, Hassan Hossein Shorodi, who is a member of the presiding board of the Parliament Economic Commission, emphasized that the plan to switch to the Toman would deliver a short-term shock to the currency market in Iran, adding that everything would be back to normal later on. Amir Nojumi, the secretary of Iran's High Council of Exchange Shops, was quoted by the domestic media saying that switching to the Toman will increase the value of Iran's national currency against the US dollar tenfold. Yeah, only because you're making yours worth more. President Rouhani's move is like what Turkey's President Erdogan did when he took office. Erdogan ordered to strike 6 euros from Turkey's national currency. Accordingly, the people had 1 lira in banks for every 6 million liras. The official exchange rate of the US dollar in Iran is 32,150 rials. And and its unofficial rate, the street rate, is above 37,000 rials. So $1, one American dollar, can get you a whole lot of money in Iran, but I'm still not putting it on my vacation list. Iran on Wednesday... we're not done with Iran. Iran on Wednesday awarded a basic agreement to global energy giant Royal Dutch Shell to study 3 mega oil and gas projects. An agreement that was hailed in Tehran not only for its technical and economic benefits to Iran, but also the political message it sent to the world, and specifically the United States. They signed a memorandum of understanding between the National Iranian Oil Company and the Dutch/British company was tasked with studying the development of the South Asgadian and Yavardian oil fields, as well as the Kish gas field. Shell would accordingly win separate deals over the development of the field upon NIOC's approval of the results of the studies once it succeeds in subsequent project negotiations. Alright, I don't like Iran making deals with U.S. companies, but unfortunately this is a British-Dutch company. If Europeans were to be deterred by the U.S. anti-Iran moves like sanctions or Trump threats, they would not have come forward to sign contracts, said NIOC Chief Ali Kardor. Iran's Persian-language newspaper Tadol hailed the MOU with Memorandum of Understanding with Shell as what could safeguard the Iran P5+1 nuclear agreement. This was a reference to concerns that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump would materialize his campaign threats against the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Other newspapers viewed the Memorandum of Understanding with Shell as a response by Britain to a recent move by U.S. lawmakers to extend Iran sanctions by another 10 years, which has already drawn the anger of the Islamic Republic as a violation of the JCPOA, or aka the Iran nuclear deal. Alright. North and South Korea. That is going to be the last thing we cover today in this show. And I still have a bunch of pages here. Let's start with in the South and work our way north. South Korea's National Assembly is due to vote on Friday on the impeachment of Park Geun-hye, a first step towards forcing her out of office over her alleged role in the corruption and influence peddling scandal. The opposition-controlled legislature introduced an impeachment motion Thursday, triggering a vote within 72 hours. But Friday is the last day of the year that lawmakers convene. Most analysts expect the motion to pass. Park would be suspended immediately and the Prime Minister would take over the day-to-day running of the country, while South Korea's Constitutional Court decides whether to uphold the motion, a process which could take 6 months. The opposition parties and independents have 172 seats in the 300-member assembly. To reach the two-thirds majority required to pass the motion, they would need the support of nearly 30 lawmakers from Park's Saenuri party. As recently as the beginning of the week, analysts had said the pro-impeachment forces might be scratching to get to 200, but revelations over the past 2 days have further hurt Park. Most damaging was a report by left-leaning Hankora newspaper that Park was getting her hair done on the day that the Seoul ferry sank in April 2014, claiming more than 300 lives. Park's whereabouts for 7 hours that day seemed to have been the subject of intense speculation. The Hankoi reported that Park's hairdresser was at the presidential Blue House for almost 2 of those 7 hours. The Blue House said the hairdresser that spent only 20 minutes attending to Park that afternoon and repeated its assertion that Park was working on the day the ferry sank, receiving briefings and issuing commands as rescue operations were underway. But with Park's approval rating even lower than the U.S. Congress folks, her approval rating is at 4%. 4. Single digit. 4%. Park told lawmakers in her party this week she would not resign if the National Assembly votes to impeach her, but would wait for the court to rule. She appears to be hoping that the conservative-leaning court will decide in her favor, but she has not made any public statements. This should not be taken as a sign of indifference. Scandal centers on allegations that Park, the country's first female president and daughter of military strongman Park Geun-hye, took advice from a secret confidant on a wide variety of topics, including North Korean policy and her wardrobe. Prosecutors say that the confidant Chol Soon-sil, a lifelong friend and daughter of a shadowy cult leader, used that relationship to enrich herself by at least $70 million and get advantages for her family. Choi has been indicted on charges including abuse of power, extortion, and is in detention. Prosecutors want to question Park about her role in the case, but she has refused. Instead, she has approved the appointment of an independent counsel to investigate. I'm guessing South Korean politics works a lot like U.S. politics. Deny and hang on as long as possible. Alrighty. South Korea wants to prevent 60 submarine components from reaching the North. South Korea has unveiled a list of 60 submarine components. No, the list is not printed in the article. That need to be banned from reaching North Korea. This is a follow-up step after the United Nations adopted a new round of sanctions over Pyongyang's latest nuclear test. The items on the watch list are those that could contribute to the North's development of a ballistic missile submarine program, but haven't been blacklisted by international non-proliferation by the international non-proliferation regime. The list intends to warn the international community against selling such components to Pyongyang. South Korea has consented to share the list with other countries and also to actively push to have the items designated by the countries as materials sanctioned from shipment to North Korea. Some of the items on the list include steel plates, acoustic coating, and underwater communication systems. Banning the items can help prevent North Korea from improving its submarine-launched ballistic missile capability by encouraging tighter control of key components. The North has test-fired 3 ballistic missiles from submarines earlier this year, with the one tested on August 24th flying some 500 kilometers. The latest action followed the UN Security Council's approval of Resolution 2321, and for those of you who don't keep up with these resolution numbers, that's the one that cuts their coal exports. Okay. Now, since we have moved to discuss the North, Kim Jong-un appears to be looking out for himself. Doesn't sound odd for him. According to satellite photography, there is a new runway being constructed exclusively for use by Kim Jong-un and his family. Could this be an escape route? This is an 8th runway built exclusively for him. North Korea is building the 870-meter-long airstrip for Kim in South Pyongyang Province. It is reported that Kim will inspect industrial facilities, said Melvin, who studies satellite imagery to get clues about police state's affairs. Other photographs have shown buildings and houses which were swept away by summer flooding. Kim's 7th airstrip appeared near an equestrian center in Pyongyang in May. Fascinating pictures show the inside invasion tunnels dug by North Korea, and an eerie video captured the peculiar capital city, Pyongyang, from the International Space Station. Satellite images taken by the Committee for Human Rights in North Korea have also revealed huge prison camps in the country, which feature gallows, electric fences, and massive crematoriums. Guys, cross North Korea off your most wanted to visit lists. Alright, I know I'm pretty much out of time, but I want to remind you, you can hear me every night here, Monday through Friday at 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern. And if you miss the show, never fear, it is available in multiple platforms. iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Blueberry, just to name a few. And you can also always follow me on Twitter at Jessie's POV. And on that note, folks, I'm out of here!